Hello, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever it is that you are. This is Dan Turchin. I'm the co-founder of Neva and the organizer of the Future of AI in IT meetup. And we've got a great session for you today. We're here to talk to you about what's required to survive in this age of AI and machine learning as a CIO. And specifically, we'll talk through some themes that are confronting every CXO these days. Specifically, we're all interested in understanding how and why AI are used in IT now and will be in the future. So for all those joining us via the YouTube live hangout, feel free to chat with us via YouTube. This is being recorded. Thanks so much for joining. And with that said, let's get into the fun stuff. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and share my slides. And I thought for today, I'd focus on some high-level questions, and specifically, well, gosh, let's start at about the highest level there is. Why is it that we're here? Not just today, but in more of an existential sense. Why are we here? No, really, why are we here? And perhaps more importantly, where have we been? Where are we headed? And gosh, how are we gonna know when we get there? So these obviously have direct relevance to some of the themes in and around AI and machine learning. We're all somewhere between confused and scared and excited about what's up ahead. And I thought we'd get real pragmatic in this session. And we'll first kind of talk about some of those meta themes, but then we'll spend the bulk of the time talking about how it is that we as IT organizations are kind of adopting and using these new technologies to benefit our broader businesses. Now, with that said, it really helps me to kind of orient the discussion if I understand a little bit more about who the audience is. So if I could just pause there for a second, I'm going to put up two polling questions, and you'll see that you can vote online. Let me go ahead and open the first one. So this is the first question, and I'll go ahead and read it. Assume you can see it as well. Which of the following best describes your role? And the way you're going to vote is go to either pollev.com/danturchin744, or if you prefer that ancient protocol called SMS, you can text your response to 22333, and your result is going to be danturchin744 with A, B, C, or D. Option A, we have an AI strategy in IT, and I own it. If that's for the question, go ahead and text that or vote online. Developing an AI strategy in IT. C, I'm an AI enthusiast outside IT. That would be option C, or D, none of the above. If in fact you're a bot, programmed to attend meetups about bots, that would be option D. Votes. We'll give that a second. Thank you. These are very helpful. Now we're going to go on to the next poll, the second and final poll. Go ahead and activate it. And the second question, again, something that'll help me kind of orient my comments. How do you feel about the rise of AI and automation in IT? Let me just go ahead and make sure that's active. Are you A, excited because it should make your organization more productive and provide better service? B, you're scared. Hey, what if the bots take over? C, maybe you feel like it's too early to have an opinion, but the CEO sure wants you to have one. Or is D the most appropriate answer? You're disappointed because you hope you get to meet some celebrity like Jarvis or Hal at today's meetup. Thank you for your votes. I'll wait a second while they funnel in. This is a bit of a technology test for all of the IT geeks out there. Let's see if you can figure out how to vote online in a poll. At least one of you has successfully figured it out. 2. We'll give those a minute to register. I'll go ahead and look at the results offline as well. Thank you for sharing. It's good feedback. I'm going to go ahead and close the poll in just a second, and we will continue on with the presentation. Okay, thank you for that feedback. It is very useful. I'm going to go ahead and cut back over to my slides, go back into full screen mode, and let's put these themes of AI and machine learning in context. So I thought I'd share with you some statistics that I feel like are important as we think about what's up ahead and we think about where we are today. But first, I thought I'd capture three of these kind of meta themes that for all of us that are in the space have become kind of mantras. Conversations, the new UX, something you hear a lot, certainly around Silicon Valley. Outside of Silicon Valley, I assume that'll permeate the rest of tech culture as well. Bots are the new apps. Increasingly, we're seeing app makers shift to a more conversational interface. Third, AI is the new UI. So increasingly, we're seeing machine learning being used to drive kind of innovations in user interface. But more importantly, I thought I'd share with you some stats that I feel like kind of best characterize where we're at as an industry and maybe where we're headed. So first, if you're not sure what that important year is, 1956 is the year that a gentleman named Marvin Minsky coined the term artificial intelligence, and he did it in, of all places, the little hamlet of Hanover, New Hampshire, at a school called Dartmouth College, where he convened a group of computer scientists, and they came up with this this kind of vision for the future of computing. Now, since then, we've gone through several what we call founders AI summer, but it all started with Marvin Minsky in 1956. Stat number 2. 6 billion, an awful big number. Turns out that's the number of new devices. We typically refer to this as IoT, or the Internet of Things, but IP-enabled devices that are going to show up on your networks in the next 18 months, says Gartner, the analyst firm. So the question arises, if that many new devices are showing up on your networks, what's the implication for all of us in IT on service management? Well, you can bet that those 6 billion new devices are going to have some service issues, and you're going to have a strategy for how you deal with tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions, billions of new devices all requesting service. So you can think about the importance of automation. If for no other reason, think of it through the lens of IoT. Third statistic, 62%. So 62%, it turns out, is the number of large enterprises globally that say, in the next 12 months, you will deploy at least one AI-enabled application. I thought that was pretty high, but we'll see. Let's come back. Let's reconvene in 12 months, and we'll see. Maybe 62% will turn out to have been low. Fourth statistic, 20%. Here's a head scratcher. At least it was for me. This is the analyst from IDC says that by the year 2023, 20% of all business content will be generated by AI. So go ahead and ponder that one for a second. We thought that as humans, we were uniquely capable of writing business documents. Well, it turns out there's a high degree of repetitiveness in a lot of the documents that get authored. And there's a high likelihood that that will no longer be the sole domain of humans in the next few years. 75%, gosh, that's a big number, particularly when you consider that's what the firm is Gartner as well. That's what Gartner says by the year 2020 is the percentage of human call center agents that will be displaced by AI-enabled call centers. Fairly large number. If we look to our leaders for guidance about the state of AI and machine learning in the enterprise or in broader culture, it leads many of us to be alarmed. Gosh, you just can't pick up a magazine these days or read a blog post or read your tweet stream without being confronted by all of these apocalyptic notions about AI and the impact that they'll have on jobs and humans. And frankly, I feel like a lot of these do a disservice to us, but look at the headlines, good Lord. Experts predict that over a third of all jobs in 10 years will go away. But I'm glad that I'm not an insurance underwriter, because it turns out the online blog Futurism says 99% of those in the quote short term will be automated to bots. And look, our tech leaders are no better. There's a tweet from Elon Musk recently. AI is potentially more dangerous than nukes. Well, I disagree with you, Elon Musk. You're much smarter than I am, but in this regard, I disagree. And the rise of AI and machine learning in context, I think it's probably less headline grabbing, but more accurate to say that AI and machine learning absolutely will impact every facet of our daily lives, and certainly every facet of our work lives. So if you take a look at any case study out there, any vertical, look at education, look at healthcare, look at manufacturing, look at finance, it's very clear that in all of these domains, the way we interact with these services will become smarter when these services are AI enabled. But is that to say that the increasing pace of technology will necessarily create, a burden or, eliminate large percentage of jobs and have a net negative impact on society? I would argue vehemently that that's not the case. And look no further than, let's say, about 200 years back, it turns out, a lot of humans were confronting a similar challenge, and we call that period the Industrial Revolution. And any students of history know that those who were on the wrong side of technology and the Industrial Revolution didn't fare too well. We call them Luddites. They went out and broke machines. It was the ones that were on the right side of innovation, the ones who embraced technology, automated looms to weave clothes, or the ones who learned to drive steam engines that powered trains and enabled new eras of transportation. Those are the ones that ended up being the winners. At the turn of this century, in our own country, we shifted from kind of an agrarian society to a manufacturing-based society. And we all know that that was one of the biggest creators of jobs in human history. So these things tend to have a way of working themselves out. If you look at AI and machine learning, there's going to be a massive new footprint of jobs generated by people who are able to, or who are going to be needed to harness the data economy. And whether that's interpreting the way AI-based algorithms work, or explaining to our organizations how to better leverage the power of the data that we're capturing to make predictions. These are going to be whole new industries, whole new categories of jobs that are going to make people not obsolete, but in fact more valuable. I'm going to stick to my initial thesis that, unlike what you may hear from Bill Gates or others, that's the future that is ahead of us. So that's the dictionary definition of work. I prefer to think of a new definition of work that's increasingly going to be redefined. And I'm firmly a believer and very optimistic in my belief that as we redefine the very nature of work, it's going to give us all an opportunity, not just as technologists or not just as IT practitioners, but all of us as humans, an opportunity to reinvent ourselves if we take advantage of it. This is a quote that I pulled from a former professor at Stanford who actually just retired from Baidu. He was the head of the AI lab. The venerable Andrew sums it up well. Worrying about the AI apocalypse is like worrying about overpopulation on Mars. If you want to be even less concerned about the current state of AI and machine learning on human jobs, take a look at this clip. This is a fascinatingly horrible movie. It's called Sunspring, and you see there in the foreground our hero in Silicon Valley, he of Silicon Valley fame, Thomas Middleditch. Well, this was an interesting exercise. This is some film students decided that they'd be the first to have an AI written movie script. And this is I think it's like a 9-minute movie, written entirely by an AI. And in one take, they got Thomas Middleditch and a few others to go ahead and perform the movie. And I'm going to show you a few seconds worth of it.
Tuesdays this summer are for big dreams. It's the chance of a lifetime on America's Got Talent. Then it's the search.
So you'll see what it looks like when AIs generate movie scripts.
In a future with mass unemployment, young people are forced to sell blood. It's something I can do.
You should see the boy and shut up. I was the one who was going to be 100 years old.
I saw him again. The way you were sent to me, that was a big, honest idea. I am not a bright light.
Well, I have to go to the skull.
Okay, I'm going to pause there. It only gets worse. And I got to tell you, when you're having an existential crisis of your own, go ahead and watch Sunspring. That's 30 seconds of the 9-minute movie, and you'll quickly be convinced that there is and will be for the foreseeable future a need for humans in and around technology. Anyway, that's Sunspring and Thomas Middleditch. So now we're going to shift gears. When I opened the discussion, I said we're going to focus on how and why AI are used in IT. I thought it was first important to set the stage and let you know that you are more valuable than ever. And as an IT community, the faster that we embrace the of AI and machine learning, the more we can lead out in our organizations and be perceived as kind of stewards of the future, rather than being fearful about it. If it hasn't happened already, what you're going to find very soon is that you're going to be confronted by everyone across the organization concerned about what the impact of AI and machine learning might be on the organization. And if you're in a position to be a leader and coach the organization about how to create compelling technology experiences using new technologies, then it's going to create a lot of opportunities for you. And if you're a CIO and you're listening to this, then the whole organization is looking to you to set the tone for how these new technologies will give you a competitive advantage. So now, one thing to keep in mind as we move into the kind of the next section of this discussion is that the best AI or the most effective AI is very narrowly framed. And specifically in IT, the way to take advantage of these new technologies is by thinking very pragmatically in terms of the key personas that these technologies may impact. And specifically in our tidy little world of IT, we think about 3 personas, kind of the same personas that we've always, only I want to shine a bright light on these personas with regard to how they are and will be impacted by AI machine learning. So requesters. So for a common definition, the requester is the internal employee that needs some support. Requesters increasingly will interact with autonomous agents to ask their questions, submit incidents, request goods and services from a catalog, services that you'd historically need to have call center agents support or possibly support via a self-service portal. But increasingly, autonomous agents are going to become very good very quickly at fulfilling the needs of requesters. Occasionally, the autonomous agent won't be able to resolve the requester's agent at the first point of contact, in which case human agents will be involved. And this is where it's really important to reiterate the need for human agents in the service lifecycle. So sometimes the bot will get it right, but a lot of times it won't. And in that case, it's incumbent on smart technology to make the humans more capable of fixing the problem at the first point of contact. So what you're going to see is our key metrics like MTTR, mean time to resolution, and FCR, first call resolution rate, be improved dramatically by the application of machine learning based algorithms. So in this case, wouldn't it be nice if the fulfiller assigned to fix an IT issue was instantly confronted with recommendations for how to fix the problem. Essentially, what you do is you take your L1, your first level technician, and you give them all the capabilities that historically only your L2 or your L3 expert would have. So all of a sudden, there's far fewer opportunities or requirements for your L1 to escalate to your L2 and L3. Now think about that through the lens of cost, or think about that through the lens of how quickly it will be to resolve, or think about that through the lens of how frequently the L1 is going to get the problem or find the solution to the problem the first time. So it's these contextual recommendations, related knowledge articles, related changes to the infrastructure, related incidents that all of a sudden take that fulfiller and make them an expert. Okay. The other role for AI and machine learning is in the routing of incidents. So today, sad but true, most IT organizations do manual triage. When an incident is submitted via phone or via a self-service portal, there's a human being, believe it or not, assigned to basically do catch and release. Catch it, figure out who needs to fix it, and release it. And that's about the most expensive, least efficient way to triage an inbound incident. It turns out machine learning is an exceptionally efficient way to do that, to replace that catch and release process with an automated process. The last of the three key personas, the manager. So managers are those in our organizations that are responsible for delivering infrastructure or delivering services. And in the case of how they might benefit from AI and machine learning, what you're going to see happen is they're going to be delivered dashboards that show kind of actions that they can take based on patterns that have been identified by machine learning algorithms. So I'll give you an example. So let's say you deploy a new version of firmware to your storage cluster in EMEA. Well, wouldn't it be nice if in real time firmware upgrade is being rolled out, how that firmware upgrade is related to inbound, or how it's related to conversations that your requesters are having via social channels, or how it's impacting the performance of your applications or the availability of the storage cluster. Well, that's the kind of thing that's going to be available on all screens to all managers instantly. So that manager who's responsible for all of the services that rely on the storage cluster will instantly be aware of upgrade had on quality of service. So that's about as pragmatic as it gets, a good way of making the human manager much more productive and giving the whole organization kind of a productivity dividend by applying AI and machine learning to problems that have always existed. So the bots are coming, and they're coming to save your job. So I recorded a little video that should give you kind of a glimpse into the future of IT. And what this shows is the role of an autonomous agent interacting conversationally with a requester. Now, in this case, this agent happens to be a headless agent. We see it living in Slack, a very popular interface for enterprise collaboration. But that autonomous agent is headless by design, and the best ones you'll find in the future will be. And the reason that's so powerful is because as the requester has questions, the place where you want that autonomous agent to be is wherever the question's being asked. And that question could be asked in any enterprise collaboration tool or a self-service portal or a voice portal or any place. In the first example, the virtual agent didn't come up with the right reply. The requester trained the model by saying it wasn't helpful. The virtual agent created a ticket. The ticket was enriched with what we call fulfiller assistance to make the human agent smarter. And now we see a second example. The second example is a more typical one. So the requester says, I need to reset my password. Great, no problem. In the case of, at least at Neva, we have customers that just use the Neva virtual agent, 4,000 automated password resets a month. Well, gosh, just think about the impact that has on your KPIs, being able to deflect 3,000 to 4,000 calls every month. In this case, you see it's a very natural experience. The requesters ask some questions. The virtual agent makes a recommendation. with a high degree of confidence. It says, this is probably going to fix your problem. The requester says, yes, that was helpful. The machine learning models get trained, and that's it. It took about 45 seconds. There was no call to the help desk. The requester's happier. IT is happier. The organization that was dependent on the requester is happier because now that requester is functional with that technology in about 12 hours less time than it ordinarily would have taken. That's the future of IT. The third example shows something that's not even related to IT, right? The call center gets a question about benefits or payroll or who knows what, but something that is not in the domain of IT. In this case, you can see the virtual agent gets that question often enough that it can predict the right answer. So it says, hey, you're asking about benefits. Why don't you just go to the benefits portal? So instead of IT having to pogo stick that request for benefits information to the HR service desk, in this case, one simple request resolved via the autonomous agent, and everyone's happy. 17 seconds end to end, and it deflects a call as well. So that's the future of IT. So I've been talking a lot about the importance on an ongoing basis of humans in the service health lifecycle. Let's take a look at what this means. Like in the first example, on the process user side. Here's an example of interacting conversationally with an AI-driven platform in a way that was really hard to do before. So instead of having to phone a friend or call the help desk or, heaven forbid, do a search for this kind of information in the system of record used for IT, in this case, I can just interact conversationally with an AI-driven platform. So there are a lot of cases. This is a pretty typical one, but I'll give you an even more common one. As a manager, I might want to know, hey, what's the MTTR, the mean time to resolution, for all of the issues in the Midwest for my VIP customers for the last 30 days. Like, turns out I can speak that very simply. It's a very easy concept to convey. But as a manager, if I have to go in and write that query myself, I probably don't know 5 help desk managers on the planet that could credibly do that on their own. So typically that becomes a request to a sysadmin. And then the sysadmin needs to own the kind of the life cycle of that dashboard. And so what the manager learns is, it's kind of a pain. And so the next time when they need that information or some related information, they just don't ask. But wouldn't it be nice if all of the information bundled up in the systems of record is, at our disposal via voice? So similarly, wouldn't it be nice if every human was augmented via machine learning? So if you could take the best answer from any source, whether it's, the IT system of record or HR system of record or a knowledge resource, or maybe it's even on, in the public domain on the public web. But if you could harness all the power of all those right answers out there and deliver them at the moment of truth when the fulfiller needs the answer, gosh, you can just imagine how much more effective, the same human agents would be if they had the right answer staring at them all the time. Okay, so that's what we call fulfiller assistance. Embedding the right answer in the context of the existing task, incident, problem, change, whatever it is. Okay. So the other key beneficiary of AI machine learning is that third persona I mentioned. So in this case, you see a simple dashboard that basically takes any mere mortal, right? Anyone in IT, outside of IT, it could be a finance manager or an HR manager, doesn't matter, data scientist. Because now they've got the ability to harness the power of their data and turn it into actionable decisions. So I gave an example before about like upgrading the firmware on a storage cluster. Well, things like that become immediately clear when you're staring at a visualization of your data, like in the bottom middle simple entity bubble chart. But it's really powerful because what that contains is information about all of the types of conversations that requesters are having with the virtual agent. So at a glance, I can see, big purple bubble. In EMEA, last 24 hours, storage cluster issues. Well, I can click on that bubble and I can drill into all the changes that were made that impacted the storage cluster in the last 24 hours. So that's a level of insight I've never had before. So before I walk into a meeting and get blindsided by some performance issue related to the storage cluster, I just glance on this. I click in, I see a list of what happened. I drill in, I say, roll back the change. Decided by the request in my cabinet meeting, I've rolled back the change, performance improved. That's the future of IT. So I thought I'd pause for a second and talk about, I've referred a couple times to the service health life cycle. And I thought I'd put together this kind of schematic about, kind of what that means to me, kind of what our perspective is on at NAVA on the service health life cycle, but specifically tie each element of the service health life cycle to how it will be impacted by AI and machine learning. So starting with provisioning. So let's say I provision a new service. Gosh, wouldn't it be nice if I could get insights into where that workload should be provisioned based on the success or failure of similar workloads in the past. So what cloud it should go to, what service is available right now, how to optimize costs, things like that. So provisioning. Well, we all in IT know that this is among the banes of our existence, is that we often provision way more capacity than we need just for lack of good knowledge about how much capacity this workload needs. So wouldn't it be nice if using AI and machine learning, we could dynamically allocate capacity, not just in the right cloud to optimize performance, but also to optimize cost. So moving through the life cycle, so incident management. Well, I showed you some examples already. Wouldn't it be nice if we could make intelligent recommendations to human agents to resolve incidents when they occur, when they impact our services, if we could resolve them more efficiently? Problem management. Wouldn't it be nice if we could associate those incidents that are coming in, like I showed you, with problems in the underlying infrastructure? And wouldn't it be even better if, like in the example I gave, if we could tie the changes to the infrastructure, not just to the problems in the incidents, but to the performance and to the cost of delivering these services? So all of these are at our fingertips. These are all just employing the same prediction-based technologies to large amounts of data that today essentially, go unused, or at the very least, not used to their fullest advantage or to their fullest capability. Okay, moving through the service health life cycle. So wouldn't it be great if we could tie some of these changes and problems and incidents into orchestration so that we knew we could associate the right changes? Like, I said kind of casually before I go into the CAB meeting, maybe I want to roll back the change to remediate the issue that impacted performance or availability or something. Well, if I could automatically tie the orchestration script into that pattern of problems, then I could get to the point where I could auto-remediate. So for the last decade, at least in IT, we've all been talking about the holy grail of closed-loop change management, where in a truly automated fashion, we diagnose, we resolve via auto-remediation, and we subsequently update our CMDB, our configuration management database. We update the CI so that when we see the pattern occur the next time, we understand what happened. The CMDB is up to date. The services have been mapped in real time. Well, that requires applying some intelligence to the remediation process. So moving along the cycle, so root cause analysis. So as we amass interesting, rich repository of the problems that have occurred in the past and how they were remediated, well, one, logical extension, or one logical way from being able to actually do accurate root cause analysis. So now think about when you're in the cab deciding whether or not to approve that change. I can get a very accurate assessment of the risk of the change if I know changes had generated similar problems in the past, downtime it created, here's who was involved, it was required to remediate the change, and here was the root cause of it. Well, if I'm staring at that in the context of a proposed change, you can bet I'm not going to make the same mistake the second time around. And every time we go through this closed loop change management process, our ability to predict and our ability to proactively provide maintenance on our services gets that much better, and our repository of the root causes of issues gets better. Okay. Knowledge management. So what if it were the case that as we understand the root cause of these issues that are occurring, what if we could then automate the process of knowledge creation? So again, the holy grail of IT management, right? I told you I thought that statistic was kind of eye-popping that by 2023, 20% of all business content will be authored by AI. Well, imagine this. Imagine that in the context of the service health life cycle, if your knowledge repository was automatically being updated based on the root cause analysis of historical issues. Now we start to talk about an environment where, from monitoring through to knowledge capture, knowledge authoring, we've automated the end-to-end life cycle. Now, as much as this may, have seemed like science fiction, a year ago or two, or certainly 10, we're on the cusp of being able to automate every facet of the cycle. And we're talking, 12 months, 24, maybe 36 at the longest. This is real. So, kind of the question I posed at the start, kind of, why are we here? No, really, why are we here? Like these are the kinds of technologies that fundamentally change the nature of the value that we can provide to the businesses. So we all entered this field because we think that, there's an opportunity to be leaders and help our organizations, we're not here to police what technologies they use or upgrade their version of Word. That's not what we're here for. We're way too skilled to do that. We're here to figure out a way to use technology to improve our competitive differentiations. That's what using automation across the service health lifecycle frees us up to do more of. So again, I've tried to focus my comments on being aggressively pragmatic. So I wanted to make this as actionable as possible. So if you're kind of thinking about how to lead this conversation internally, I think I said in the outline for the session, we'll leave you with some things that are actionable. A couple ways that you can go back in your organization and kind of shift the conversation from where kind of the traditional reactive mode to where IT is being seen as delivering really compelling new experiences with technology. Well, think about some of these elements. So where can AI and machine learning impact your organization today, or if not today, tomorrow or next month? So we've talked a number of times about reducing downtime. So your organization, at the C level, may not be ready to embrace, bots, or that may be, a science fiction term that they're not ready to invest in. But you know what? They're ready to invest in reducing downtime. I guarantee you of that. So if you frame the benefits to the business and that the business is already using to manage progress, I guarantee you get immediate traction. So we're all in the business of delivering better services faster and cheaper. So oftentimes we measure the health of our services with mean time to resolve. So if you can commit, who cares how, but if you can commit that you're going to reduce MTTR by half in 6 months, I guarantee you'll get an audience of just about whoever you want around the table. Improving customer sat. So again, one of our mantras in IT, right? And what if you could sit around, the big table and deep carpet and commit to, improving your customer sat by a third in, 6 months, because MTTR is going to go down, because FCR, first call resolution rate, is going to go up, right? Because when they talk to a human being, the human being is going to be that much smarter. Well, it doesn't take too big of a leap of faith to say that customer sat is going to go way up quickly. Reducing the cost per ticket. So this is just simple math. But the fact is, this is the way a lot of us are measured. So if you could commit to being able to solve the same number of problems for a fraction of the cost because it takes fewer resources, or you can expand the scope of services so that you can onboard a lot higher volume of incidents or issues with the same number of resources, do the math. Either way, the cost per ticket is going to fall dramatically. So that's another way to get your C-level audience to the table. Make IT more strategic. So again, back to the bad old days of IT, we essentially played whack-a-mole with technology problems. And as soon as we fixed one thing, something else would crop up, and it was very reactive. Well, what if you could commit to IT being what IT should be, which is a strategic provider of services that are technology enabled for the business? What if the business would come to you to brainstorm and to strategize about how to grow market share, to be spending your job? Well, it turns out AI machine learning, not out to take your job. Far from it. They're out to make you better at what you're already doing. Improve business outcomes. So again, think about, if you're a public company, your stock price. If you're an educational institution, improve the graduation rate. If you're an insurance company, reduce the risk of writing policies. Think about the business outcomes in the way that as a provider of IT services, you can directly create better business outcomes using automation. So these are some themes that get me and certainly our team pretty excited, because we think that this is moving from kind of the domain of science fiction and vision and kind of far-fetched notions about what IT should be like, and increasingly this is just reality. And these are things that today you can go out and make a couple of quick changes, or propose a couple of quick new things. Introduce fulfiller assistance, or what we call auto mapping, to use machine learning to auto route without having a human need to do triage. These are very pragmatic. The technology's there, and all of these will rapidly elevate the role that you play within your organization from kind of traffic cop to provider of strategic services. These are three good. Recommend you go if you're interested in the field. They're not related to IT necessarily, but by going through Marvin Minsky, the founder of, or the one who coined the term, wrote a great book called The Emotion Machine. Highly recommend it. Kurzweil, if you haven't heard of him, he's a futurist. He's actually now employed by Google. He's the founder of this interesting, call it somewhere between a philosophy and a set of ideas. Singularity is what Ray Kurzweil claims is the rapid convergence of carbon-based and silicon-based life forms. So that's where we get closer to kind of apocalyptic notions of AI. But nonetheless, it's a good read. He's a great writer and a great thinker. How to Create a Mind. John Brockman wrote a good book called What to Think About Machines That Think. Another good entry point as you're thinking about expanding kind of the corpus of what you know in the space. With that said, I want to make sure I left time for some Q&A, and I know we've already had some that were published in advance. There was so much enthusiasm about this topic. So we've got the community that's been sharing questions. I'm going to take the first few that had come in previously, and then we'll go. We've got a number of people here live in Palo Alto. This is being simulcast. We're live in Palo Alto, but it's also via YouTube Live globally. I'm going to take a few questions, and thanks for your good questions so far. Let's see. The first question so this is a good question. So this is from Michael in Switzerland, who says, "What's required to use AI to reduce call volume?" Good question. So I tried to hit on some of that in my comments during the session, but I'll kind of reiterate what I shared. And then maybe I'll provide some more kind of practical advice. One of the things I've seen work well is if you're going to introduce a new support channel, call it, for instance, an autonomous agent, it must be equally attractive to traditional channels. So if you credibly are going to get your requesters to use the autonomous agent, for instance, instead of, say, email or voice, the traditional support channels, you need to make darn sure that wherever the requester is when they have the problem, that autonomous agent is available. And that's where this notion of a headless virtual agent is very important. So when they're mobile, the headless agent needs to be there. If you use, let's say, Skype for Business, or it used to be called Link, you want the virtual agent to be there. If you use Slack, like I showed in the video, make sure the virtual agent's there. If you prefer a voice portal, make sure that 7Help, or whatever your helpline is, make sure that the virtual agent is there. So make it equally attractive. One of the things that leaders do when they're introducing new support channel is promote the new channel in a variety of ways. One of them is so I've seen organizations do things like gamify the process of adoption of the new channel. So, send out an announcement when when requesters make good use of the new channel, or when the virtual agent is used to crowdsource the answer to a question, give credit to the person or the people or the team that provided the best answer. Do things like create a campaign, put it on the internet, make it such that anyone who feels the need to submit an incident, they're back in the Stone Ages. Organizations that take an even more draconian approach, which is say, look, in 30 days or 45 or whatever, email inbox is getting turned off. The voice call center's going away. That I guarantee you will get rapid adoption. It's definitely on the extreme end of the scale, but I guarantee you, some combination of those things will reduce your call volume very quickly. It's a good question. Let's see. Second question comes from Dana. So it's a good question. How do we get management to support our AI projects? Again, something I tried to share a little bit of commentary on, but I'll kind of shine more of a spotlight on that. I think one of the things I'll reiterate is what I shared at the end. The first thing is, so not to single out Dana, but so don't make these AI projects. So truthfully, no one's really interested in investing in an AI project, right? What does that mean? Who cares? Who does that benefit? You know what they are interested in investing in? Things that are going to raise our stock price, things that are better for the shareholders, things that are better for the requesters, things that are better for our customers. So don't frame the project as something that's AI. No one's really interested in, deploying a bot for support. But they are interested in reducing the mean time to resolve, or they are interested in improving the customer experience. So frame your proposals, frame your projects, frame your strategies in terms that the business understands. Okay. Good question. Let's see. So this comes in a question about the video of the virtual agent. How does the virtual agent know what to recommend? I'll try to answer this question without getting too technical. So when the requester, like in the case, I showed 3 examples in the video that I recorded. So one was about how do I upgrade or how do I add a node to the storage cluster? Another was how do I add or how do I reset my password? And the third was have my benefits changed for 2017. So in all cases, the first thing that happens when the virtual agent receives that, what we call an utterance, or the message from the requester, is it classifies it as either a question, a request, or a problem. Okay, so that's the first step. So we use NLP. By we, the video is actually of the Neva virtual agent. There are others out there that are similar, but obviously I'll speak to our approach. So using natural language processing, the first thing that happens is the intent of the requester gets identified. And once we've identified the intent, then we parse the entities in the message. So what you saw in the video, just very conversationally, the autonomous agent responds, hey, it looks like you want to reset your password. Well, there's actually some pretty sophisticated analysis of the language pattern that went into that elegant response. So the entity gets identified, the nature of the utterance gets classified, and at that point, at least in the case of the Neva virtual agent, we create what we call a semantic frame. And the semantic frame is essentially a template that's used to structure the dialogue. So that semantic frame has slots that get filled. Filled are all of the bits of information that were gathered in the course of the dialogue. Every time the requester provides some content back to the autonomous agent, it gives the autonomous agent a chance to go do a knowledge search against what at Neva we call the knowledge graph. And the knowledge graph consists of all of the potential answers or potential solutions culled from all of the potential sources where that information could exist. So it could be within the enterprise, it could be outside the enterprise. At least, in the case of the Neva architecture, it all gets kind of ingested and normalized in the Neva data store so that when the virtual agent is querying the knowledge graph, it's just data. It's just looking for the best fit for the question or the problem. And so if the request, or sorry, if the recommendation that the virtual agent has based on the pattern of interaction with the requester, if the recommendation isn't very confident, if the virtual agent's not confident, it's going to keep gathering information. It's going to ask the next question until it has a recommendation that exceeds the minimum confidence level set by the customer. But it's a configurable confidence threshold. So in that way, you see, a very intuitive conversational interaction, but it's all based on the data science, the knowledge graph, the semantic frame that's constructed behind the scenes. So there, I just said I would try to answer the question in a non-technical way. Hopefully, I didn't violate my commitment, but that's basically how the virtual agent knows what it is that it's recommending. Okay, next question. This is down a few levels in terms of complexity. How long before we can use what you showed in production? That you saw, all the screenshots, by the way, in the virtual agent, those are Neva products, but again, nothing about Neva. There are other solutions out there as well. But what we did show is actually generally available today. I referred multiple times in the discussion to, within the next 24 hours, you can go and make decisions to start, leading an AI strategy, or leading a business objective-driven AI strategy. Everything you saw there, from the virtual agent to its auto mapping, those are all available. I know that because we're co-hosting this event with Servicenow, Lisa and Servicenow community, thank you, by the way. So for those of you in the Servicenow community, Neva is available as a certified app in the Servicenow store. It's available now. We offer, at least in the case of Neva, we offer free proofs of concept. Always happy to, we're pretty passionate about what we do. Always happy to share what we do with as many people as possible. So let us know if you're interested in trying it out. Let's see. I know there were some other questions that were coming in while I was gabbing away. Let me see if I can get to one or two of these other questions. Lisa, was there anything that came in offline that I haven't yet answered? And I'll also pause and take questions from those in Palo Alto as well.
I'm not seeing any on the community yet, but hopefully get some questions.
Good. I think I got to everything.
I do see one on the YouTube live chat. Did we catch the one that was on there?
No, I didn't see that. I'm sorry.
We have Karan Vera. I think I pronounced the name. Where do you see chatbots going forward in the next 5 years? Because conversation is just one part, but chatbots don't execute. They need integration.
Yeah, well said. So if you fast forward a couple years out, 5 is light years from now. 1 is the new 5, I think, in AI terms. I shared something at the beginning. I think it was on the 3rd slide that said, conversation is the new UI. Bots are the new apps. I think increasingly what we'll find is that we're going to be interacting with conversational interfaces. I think the connotation that we have for bot is going to go away. I think the notion that you don't get support from a human agent, and B, when you get support, you use natural language. I think those are two kind of premises that are going to permeate support in far less than 5 years. I think as application developers, all of the APIs that we use, all the tools that we use are going to be designed API first, as a lot of them are now, but more importantly, AI first. So everything is going to be less kind of framed from the perspective of a quote application with a quote UI, and more from the perspective of a quote model. And we're going to ask the model to make predictions and drive the predictions, or drive our collaboration with the user of the interface via natural language. So yeah, that's my perspective on where things are headed very rapidly. Lisa, anything else that I missed?
Oops, sorry, I had to unmute there. I don't see anything more in the community at this time, or on the live chat on YouTube. So hopefully we'll have some more questions posted in the community that you'll see them virtually.
I think we're going to get to a stopping place in a minute, and then I'm going to open it up offline for questions from the team here assembled in Palo Alto. I just wanted to close on the broadcast session with a few next steps. For those meetup members and members of the community, we will post, Lisa and I will post both to the community as well as the meetup group, a link to this video, as well as other artifacts. I'm happy to share this deck if you'd like to see it. I'm happy to post responses to the Q&A. I also wanted to just record into this broadcast that the future of AI and IT, we'll be having another interesting session co-hosted with my friend Cirrus's meetup, a group called AI in the Enterprise, and that's going to be July 19th, where we're going to take several different industries, manufacturing and telco and education, et cetera, and provide case studies via practitioners in these industries about how their industries are being impacted or improved by AI and machine learning. So that's July 19th. We'll be publishing that to the meetup website, but we hope you join us for that. And with that said, thank you for the great questions. Lisa and Servicenow community, thank you for hosting us. Let's keep the conversation going offline.
Great. Thanks so much.
Thank you.